Hey everyone, welcome to my library. My name is Melissa, and oh my gosh, I'm back. Yeah, I know guys, it's been like what, 3 months since I last uploaded a video. That was completely unintentional. A lot of stuff happened. My life got insanely busy. So I believe when I last uploaded, it was the beginning of September, and I was preparing for my big Europe trip. And so, yes, that happened. It was awesome. We went to 3 different countries. We went to Italy, spent a lot of time in Italy, and then we went to Spain and we went to France. And it was amazing. I'd never been to Spain or France before. I'd been to Italy before. And yeah, it was an amazing trip. I missed Sam so much though. It was so hard to be away from him for that long. But yeah, I came home and of course got my baby Cuddles back, so that was nice. But then right away, like I came back on a Thursday, and then the next Monday I started back at my work again after being on maternity leave. And yeah, that was an adjustment to say the least. I came back right in the middle of busy season for what I do. I do taxes. And so extended taxes are due for a lot of different people and entities in the September 9/15 deadline, and then there's also a 10/15 deadline. So yeah, I jumped right into the thick of it, and honestly, like my life was just basically work and taking care of Sam. That was my whole existence for those 2 months. And yeah, I mean, fortunately, I had my husband also helping, and yeah, it was definitely a team effort. But yeah, I made it through alive. And then, so yeah, that was October 10/15, and then I was able to kind of recuperate, and then in November, we went to Mexico for Thanksgiving, and yeah, so we went like a week and a half before Thanksgiving, and then we got back the day of Thanksgiving. So it was awesome. It was so fun. It was with Andrew's whole side of the family. Andrew's my husband. And so it was a big family trip. And the only unfortunate thing was that my baby got sick in the middle of it. And he's never been sick before, really. And so it was an experience for us all. And then shortly after, I got sick. And so towards the tail end of the trip, we were both pretty miserable. And then when we got home, I decided I would test just to see like if it was COVID or not, because I've actually never had it before. Turns out it was. Oh my gosh. So yeah, so I had COVID basically for a week, and that's where we're at. I am still kind of recovering from it. You may think that I sound a little stuffy. Yeah, I'm still recuperating. So, anyways, crazy couple months, guys. But I did get a decent amount of reading done, even with all the busyness. And at some point I need to film like a full wrap up, but I really just wanted to film this video to just catch up in my cozy sweater and just kind of say where life has been with me. And also to kind of share my recent reads and also what I'm currently reading. So let's just get into that now. So I did an amazing thing. I don't know how this happens a lot, but it actually does for me. Maybe it does for some of you, where I finish multiple books on the same day. Even though like I'm really not that much of like I don't read that many books in a year, so it's not like I'm finishing a book every day. Like I really kind of finish a book every week, maybe every other week. But for some reason, when I'm listening to a book and when I'm reading a book physically, they seem to land on the same day, ending it a lot, which is kind of cool. So the last day of the month of November, I ended up finishing 2 books, and I was so happy with myself for that. So the physical book I was reading, and I was reading this on vacation as well, is The Passing Bells by Phillip. And this cover is everything. I love it so much. It's got the estate that they have in the background, the family. It's a family saga. And then it's got like this amazing, super awesome car, early 1900s car. And then just kind of, the goings about of the family. There's a maid scurrying off in the background. Anyways, I love this cover. So I read this as kind of a mood read. Basically, I was really in the mood for something set in World War I and something British. And this came up and I was like, you know what? It's about time I read this book. It's been on my TBR for a really long time. So there's a blurb on the back that like officially sold me on reading it. And it says, if you've read The Thornbirds and are casting around for another I Wish It Would Never End novel, there's The Passing Bells. So yeah, that's what finally convinced me to pick this up. It's a long one though. It took me a long time. It's over 500 pages and the font is pretty small. So yeah, but it was everything that it was touted as. Like it's a Downton Abbey-esque World War I family saga with this super British family. They own this estate called Abingdon Priory. That's what this is called. And it's all about how their worlds get turned upside down when the war starts and how the class system that was established for many, decades, centuries, was broken down by the war, essentially. And so you just have a bunch of different couples. Some are different classes. Some are like different even nationalities. There's a American reporter in this book. So he comes over, he's from Chicago. He's cousins with the wife of the family, like the matriarch of the family. So he comes over to visit her and he gets to know the family, and then war breaks out, and then he kind of ends up being like the reporter back to his Chicago newspaper. And then he ends up falling in love with one of the maids. So that's kind of cute. Anyways, yeah, it was a really, really fun story. It kept me really engaged even while I was vacationing, while I was sick. It was a really good time. I would say there was a little bit too much of the war goings on in this story for my taste. I'm not a huge, like, when I read historical fiction, even if it's set in the wars, I'm not here for all the descriptions of the battles and stuff. Like, there's a lot of trench warfare talk in this, which was kind of interesting because it's a very disgusting, like so many things about trench warfare just grosses me out. But yeah, I mean, it was interesting. But there was a little bit too much war talk for my taste. So that was the only thing that kind of knocked this a star for me. So I ended up giving it 4 stars. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's actually the first in a trilogy. And I've already put the second one on my TBR, on my radar. I want the same vintage cover though. They came out with new covers that I've seen in Barnes & Noble actually, that are really cool. Like, they look cool. But I'm all about the vintage vibes, all about these old school family saga vibes. So yeah, I'm hoping the second one comes in the mail soon. I'm really excited about it. So yeah, that was the physical book I just finished. It's December 2nd today. And then the audiobook I finished with it was a buddy read with a good friend of mine. She's a watcher of my channel, and also we talk a lot on Instagram, Jen. And we read The Lost Wife together as part of Historathon that was happening. The first prompt of the the readathon was to read a book with Lost in the title. So I finally got to this book. It's actually been on my shelves for years and years and years. Like, honestly, I put in my Goodreads review. It's been with me for 3 moves. So I'm finally reading it. I'm glad I did. So yeah, this is the story, if the title does not give it away. This is the story of a Jewish couple that they have this whirlwind romance. They get married, and then like a week later, they are separated by choice, actually. She chooses to stay with her family who can't get visas out of the country. This is actually set in Prague, so that's cool. It's a different city than most historical fiction books, and that was interesting. But yeah, her family isn't able to get visas, even though she thought she was promised them when she got married to this man. And so she decides willingly to stay with her family instead of go with him, even though he's able to get out. And so she stays with them. And then honestly, the rest of the story, that happens in like 20%. And it's in the back, so it's not really spoilery. But the rest of the story is set in the Nazi ghetto of Terezin. And that's, it's actually set, the ghetto is in the Czech Republic. And that's where her and her family end up moving to and then staying for the majority of the war. And it's just describing the lifestyle and horribleness that they endured there. It was not as bad as a concentration camp, but it was still terrible. And it also describes, there's obviously two, what am I trying to say? 2 perspectives in this book. So there's her perspective, and then there's Josef's perspective, and he ends up moving to America, and he ends up becoming an obstetrician, and all of his chapters are set far off in the future when he's an older gentleman. And anyways, so it flashes back and forth, and I really struggled with this book, to be honest, because it was so sad. It was so sad. So many really depressing and heart-wrenching scenes in this story. And I struggled pressing play with, I listened to this on audio. I struggled pressing play because I knew what else was going to happen to her. What other terrors was she going to have to endure? Oh my gosh, it was so hard. I don't usually like reading a lot of Holocaust historical fiction because it does just get so depressing, and it really kind of affects my mood. I know it's a very significant part of history, and so it's good to have these books that remind us of how terrible it was. And so every once in a while I'll read one, but it's not something I can consistently do a lot. So I ended up giving this 3 stars. I liked the romance, but obviously it didn't even really focus on that for the majority of the book because they were separated. And the ending left me with a lot of unanswered, and like it left something to be desired. Let's just say that. So yeah, I'm glad I read it, and I can finally get it off my shelves. I love this cover. It's everything. I love couples kissing on a cover. I don't know. It's just, they need to come out more with this type of historical fiction cover and less of the women looking away situation that's happening. But yeah, so that's the other book I ended up finishing on the last day of November. So now let me talk about the 2 books that I am currently reading. So I asked in a poll on Instagram, which, by the way, if you guys are wanting to kind of keep up with me more than on YouTube, I'm pretty active on Instagram on my stories and like what I'm reading and what's going on in my life. So if you're at all interested, but I ended up doing a poll, and I have 3 major historical romances on audio in Libby, like in my Libby queue. and I asked which one I should read. And honestly, I shouldn't have even asked because it was so obvious which one everyone was going to choose. I already knew which one was going to win. And that is Devil in Winter by Lisa Kleypas. So this is like, this is like her pièce de resistance book. Everyone's read it. And yeah, it also fits with the season. It's December, so I was just feeling it. Here's the step back, epic. Who knows why he's wearing a cape with no shirt, but so I started this on audio, and it's actually narrated by one of my favorite historical romance narrators, besides not Rosamund Pilcher. What am I saying? Besides Rosalind Landor. This chick's one of my favorites. I can't remember her name now. Shoot, but she narrates all of Tessa Dare's books, or at least the ones I've listened to, and she just has like a fun humor, I guess, to her voices. I don't know how to describe it, but so this is a marriage of convenience tale, and it's with a notorious hero that starts off the book with a horrible reputation that's carried from the previous story. I've read all of the stories up until this one in the Wallflower series. But yeah, he starts out in a big predicament, and same with her as well. And so she proposes this idea of getting married to him in order to kind of like save both their butts. And what's interesting though about this story is that she is a very unassuming heroine, and I think a lot of people like that about her. She's super smart, but she's underestimated because she has a speech impediment. And so it's kind of, I think, going to be a story of her discovering her strength and him discovering his feelings for her, even though she seems to be kind of like the wallflower of wallflowers. So yeah, I'm excited about continuing listening to this. It's about dang time I read this book, to be honest with you. So yeah, I'm really, really excited. And then I was honestly hemming and hawing about what to read physically for 2 days. Like, I don't know why it's so not stressful, but just like I cannot actually pick up and decide on a book to read for the longest time. But I kind of just evaluated what I was really feeling like reading, and I wanted to read something romantic. It doesn't have to be an actual historical romance necessarily, but something romantic. And then I was kind of looking at my shelves, and I was like, you know what? I really want to read something Austen-esque. And then, I just ended up deciding I really wanted to read this book that I just barely bought. I haven't even shown it yet. I have this huge book haul I need to show and show this book with it. But this is called The Year in Between, a Sense and Sensibility variation, and it's by Christina Morland. This is actually a indie pubbed book, and I don't read those like ever. So this is going to be an experiment for me. But it's huge, like major props to her for finishing a novel this large. Like, that's so awesome. But let me read the back and you guys will know why I picked it. It says, Marianne Dashwood was born to an extraordinary fate, to discover the falsehood of her own opinions and to counteract by her conduct her most favorite maxims. After Willoughby's betrayal, how did Marianne learn to see Colonel Brandon and herself in a new light? And how did Edward Ferrars and Eleanor Dashwood fare during their first year of marriage? This is their story, the story of the year in between. So it's a mostly a Colonel Brandon and Marianne retelling, which they are one of my favorite couples in like the Austen world, and specifically watching them fall in love on like TV or in the movie. It's my favorite. Honestly, the Colonel Brandon, though, my Colonel Brandon is not Alan Rickman. It's whatever his name is. I can't remember his name, but whoever plays Colonel Brandon in the miniseries, I'll show a picture right here. Swoon. Oh my gosh. He's like huge hard eyes for me. I love him. And I love his depiction of Colonel Brandon. So yeah, he's who I'm going to be picturing as I'm reading this. But yeah, it's so thick. I mean, how many pages is this thing? It's almost 700 pages, and the font is also no joke. So it's gonna take me probably all month. We'll see though. I mean, maybe I'll have enough time to squeeze out one more book before the end of the year. We'll see. But yeah, so this is the book I've kind of settled on reading, hopefully, unless things change and I don't end up liking it. But I'm really excited. And I love how she did this cover design. It's supposed to mimic a Penguin Classic, if you can't tell. And I think that's so genius, so good. So yeah, kudos to her and her cover designer because this is awesome. So yeah, those are the books I'm currently reading. I don't know if there's really anything else to share other than the fact that I really want to come back, and I'm hoping that this is kind of my kickstart to coming back to YouTube. Thank you guys so much for still talking to me over on Instagram, over on Discord. Any way you guys have found ways to communicate with me, it's been so sweet. And I really appreciate all the support and hope you guys are enjoying your December and your lead up to Christmas. Oh man, it's the best season ever. I love it. But yeah, with all that being said, please like and comment and subscribe if you want to see more from me. And I will see you guys in another video. Bye.